Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Sasuke Nerds podcast, where we talk all things Sasuke and Ninja Warrior. My name is Kane. I'm joined by my co hosts, Evan and Billy, and a very special guest who was featured in Sasuke 43, advancing as far as the third stage and getting the second best results out of all 122 competitors. Boys, please give a warm welcome to the one and only Josh Levin.
How's it going?
It's going great. Very happy to have you today.
It's an honor to be on.
Starting out the kind of arc that we have of this podcast, having many brilliant guests out here for all of you fans to enjoy. Starting it out with an absolute banger here, a very well-established ninja in the grand scheme of the whole sport.
And also a little bit of a fun fact. As after we recorded our first episode, Josh actually reached out to our Instagram page, and we basically were like, we gotta ask him if he wants to be on the podcast. Josh is no stranger to the Sasuke Nerds. We interviewed him on the old TSN channel and on the new TSN channel, where he was a part of the interview that we did with all of the ANW 14 finalists. So, Josh, great to have you once again, man.
Thanks for having me.
Josh, correct me if I'm wrong. You've had different people for every interview you've done with TSN, right?
Probably, yeah. I couldn't tell off the top of my head, but I mean, just for context, again, like I am also a huge Sasuke nerd fan, etc., all of the above. So the fact that like I get to sit here, talk about Sasuke, and also have the experience of competing on the show itself, that's just such an exciting experience for me. So I'm always happy to talk about my experience, but also if it's about Sasuke, like I'm super excited to just nerd out in general. So psyched.
Heck yeah, man. No, we were like Evan said, like you reached out. Prior to that, we recorded the first episode, and at the time of this recording, guys, it's not out yet. It comes out the very next day. We literally say, "You guys think we could get Josh on the pod?" And like we were like, "Yeah, maybe like we could ask." And then I think you reached out like not even 12 hours later. It was awesome, great time.
Kane spoke it right into existence.
Right on the money there, yeah.
So, Mr. Levin, before we get into the meat and bones of Sasuke 43 and whatnot, we are going to rapid fire some questions your way in a new segment that we like to call Two Truths and a Vibe. We're going to be giving you two ninja related questions each and one random question. You can take as long or as little time to answer. The floor will be entirely yours.
Oh boy.
Boys, we got our notes. We got our questions ready.
Indeed
Yes,
we
sir.
do, yes.
All right.
I will start off. So, once again, Josh, thank you so much for coming on to the podcast. So, we figured we might as well start with the beginning. How'd you discover Sasuke and Ninja Warrior all those years ago?
Great question. So I first saw Sasuke Ninja Warrior on YouTube when I was about 15. This was 2009. You can do the math on how old I am now. So this was right around when American Ninja Warrior would have first been getting started. So at that point in time, there was no, online presence of American Ninja Warrior. Season 1 was probably just being filmed. And I got into Ninja Warrior because I saw reruns of Makoto Nagano doing stage 3 on YouTube. That is how I got into it. I've been hooked ever since. It is like an indelible memory, specifically of watching Nagano do the curtain cling obstacle. That was just like, oh my God, this is the coolest thing ever. I want to try that. This guy's a legend. How do I sign up? So that was my first ever memory, getting into Ninja Warrior, getting into Sasuke, seeing Nagano Makoto do curtain cling specifically, and then, of course, rabbit holing every other episode, every other run that he's ever done. That's where it all started.
Without being parasocial about it, Nagano is my hero, like it's, yeah. I mean, but that's so true for so many people.
Oh, yeah.
And I love seeing it. Like, I remember the YouTube video where they introduced all of the competitors for the world round. Pretty much everyone's interview mentioned Nagano, and the Japanese fans, because they're so big on Yamada and everything, like they were surprised that Nagano had that impact. And it's like, no, Nagano's the guy. Like he's the guy. I got your next question. Do you think you could have won Sasuke Indonesia?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I'd give it a solid maybe. So Sasuke Indonesia, for those of you who are just tuning in, we filmed in 2017, so a solid 9 years ago now. Oh my god, that's crazy. It was similar to World Round-ish for Sasuke 43. The only difference was that there was like a team-based thing for the first couple episodes, and then the rest of it was a straight-up stages 1 through 4. Get as far as you can, your fall, you're out, exactly Sasuke style. I got to what the equivalent of stage 2 was at the time, which kept up my really frustrating fail streak on stage 2, which, if you include all of my testing fails on American Ninja Warrior, brings the consecutive fails on stage 2 up to 6 before I finally cleared it in American Ninja Warrior Season 14. And the reason I failed was because I was disqualified on the floating boards for my right thumb touching a very small strip of blue paint. That's it. So it was just like a tiny little fluke. I was like, this is silly. But then stage 3 ended up taking out everybody else because the flying bar was just super finicky. So maybe, like, the answer to that is just a literal maybe. Like, we all did it in practice. It was no problem. We actually got to practice the obstacles ahead of time, which was nice. And then I think it just would have come down to, like, if I had cleared what the time limit would be on stage 4, because it was a spider climb into rope. I was very practiced at rope at that point in time. I think my spider climb would have been fine. So it just depended on, like, did they want someone to win or did they not? And did they want someone who was a non-Indonesia person to win or did they not?
I want to say when Yosua did it for that same season and whatnot, they gave him 30 for the tower.
Nice.
So, yeah, I mean, if you were trying, spider climb's so easy to get in a quick amount of time. So it's
Yeah.
I would like to think so, but who knows?
I didn't actually know that you guys got to test the obstacles before the actual competition. That really shocked me, actually, because I genuinely cannot remember the last time that happened for any ninja show. I would be surprised if it ever has, realistically, for the competitors that were there. Did you guys test the entire course or just
Yes.
like,
So
wow?
if you actually, I did like a little vlog on this. So I talk about it in my vlog. I call it Sasuke's Indonesia, which is, a very wonderful title. And if you go and watch the clip, we actually got to test all the obstacles during the daytime. So they basically gave us like an hour and they're like, all right, go. And then literally just everyone freaking ran for it and tried every single obstacle all at once. It was one of the craziest things ever. But I believe that's also where Asakazuma, like, hurt himself. Like, there was some really bad injury that he had.
Yeah.
I think that's when it happened.
It was a back injury or something.
Yeah.
Yes. So that's where they fly somebody else in from Japan. So that was not great. But the obstacle testing, honestly, was really fun. And I think it's more similar to, like, most, like, international specials, like USA versus the World. Competitors do get to test the obstacles ahead of that special episode, just not, the regular season, which is why if you think about, like, Sasuke 43, it was a world round, but it was a part of, like, for all intents and purposes, Sasuke 43. So we did not get to test obstacles ahead of time. And this was a weird amalgamation of, like, okay, yes, it's a special episode series for Sasuke Ninja Warrior Indonesia, but also it was a competition at the same time, but it's also a team thing. So the rules were kind of out the window, and it was actually kind of cool because we, as the competitors, also kind of got to decide some of the rules themselves. Like, we had meetings about what kind of tournament we wanted to have, which was unbelievably cool. And I've never experienced anything like that ever again. So honestly, Sasuke Ninja Warrior in Indonesia, I'm really glad you asked about that. It was one of the coolest experiences ever. Not just because we got to try all the obstacles ahead of time, not just because it was like kind of the top competitors at that point in time, all competing at the same point. But we also did just a bunch of like side quests. Like, they took us out for like a surprise dinner and like we just ate a bunch of like really good Indonesian food and like they filmed our reactions to it. And I would love to see that on something like ANW or Sasuke, where they like just, okay, we're going to take all of these international competitors and like make them eat rice with chopsticks. Like, good luck. Like, that'd be hilarious. But I think just as far as an experience, that was such a cool one because it was some of the top athletes in the world. we got to train together, we got to hang out together, like eat food together, go on random adventures, and then of course have this like unbelievably sick competition as well.
Yeah,
That's really, really cool.
no,
I
that's
love that.
Yeah.
I will just say before we get to the next question, because I know Billy's been dying to ask, but I just want to comment and add on to what you're saying. That was my favorite. It is my favorite international competition that's been outside of Japan, by far. And I distinctly remember, like, I was about 15 years old at the time, and I had spent the last couple of years just getting into Ninja Warrior outside of Sasuke and ANW, and I was watching the European versions and everything else. So, like you said, like at the time, I think they couldn't have picked a better group. Um, and overall, I just remember staying up till like I think it started at 1 a.m. in Hawaii, and I was up every week that it dropped. I was awake for it because I wanted to see. When I realized that it was actually the stages, I wanted to see who was going to win, if anyone. And so I was invested in that one, dude. So I had to ask. I had to ask.
Honestly, I kind of want to circle back to like when you mentioned like how the competitors got to choose their own rules. Like, was there like anything that like really stood out that maybe someone suggested, or something that like wasn't initially part of the producer's plan but eventually got added in?
Yes. So again, like this whole idea of the Sasuke Ninja Warrior Indonesia International Competition, which I've said that full title a million times because we had to repeat it and like say it in Indonesian, and it was a whole like running joke inside of all our heads. Yeah. So once again, like it was an Indonesian production that America, Japan, Europe, and fourth country Indonesia, yeah, of course, was all part of. Top athletes from each place. And initially, I think it was just going to be a straight up team competition. And because it was Sasuke, Inui was the head of production of the whole thing. So he actually had like a huge role in the production of it alongside the Indonesian producers. And so we would just have these like big meetings and like talk about what we were interested in, how we wanted to like pursue the competition itself. And I believe there was like a turning point where we had put forth some ideas, and then there was like, okay, we're going to have a team competition for the first couple rounds. No one's eliminated. And then from this point onwards, it will be kind of a main one, and there will be eliminations along the way. But I think the one interesting point that I thought was fun, it wasn't part of like the official rules, but I think was just like a cool thing we like decided as the American team. As we kind of all got together and we're like, all right, look, like this whole idea that we're here for, it's a team-based event. Like we're here together to represent as a team. And it's also, you know, an individual competition at the end of it all. So with the cash prize that they were offering, I forget exactly how much, like several million Indonesian rupiah, which is, you know, but some money. I don't remember the exact conversion rate. We actually decided, like, look, if one of us happens to win, it would be cool to have, and this is again like a full team decision, a way to represent that in our, you know, financial compensation if that were to have taken place. And so we decided collectively as a team that if one of us won, we would split the cash purse, I believe, 6 different ways. There were 5 of us. So one person would get 2/6 if you won of the cash purse, so 1/3 of the cash purse. And then every other person who was a part of that team, because we were along for the whole team experience, would also be compensated in, you know, a small way. But it really made it a lot more about the team effort as opposed to any individual person. So even though that wasn't part of the official rules, we all collectively decided and agreed to that just to make it something bigger than just either a regular Sasuke tournament or a Team Ninja Warrior event. It was like kind of a hybrid of the two. And I thought that was a really cool decision that we came to.
Wow. That's absolutely brilliant. I love the fact that the camaraderie between all of the different countries within the ninja realm in 2017 around that time is still represented very well to this day. It's kind of like you guys are all self-aware that it is a great competition to be a part of, and in order to get all of your guys is like, I'd say money's worth, but like if you guys win and you split the money together, I feel like that's one of the only ways you can properly go out with it. So thank you for taking that on as a question. So I'll be asking, my own right now. So, as the first random of our three, outside of both ninja and rock climbing, as those were basically your main two professions for the vast majority of your sporting life, what other hobbies could you have seen yourself get into, basically, if ninja or rock climbing wasn't a part of your life?
Good question. I think when I was younger, I did a variety of, I would say, like non-conventional sports or activities. The earliest ones I was involved with were rock climbing. I started that one when I was about 4 or 5. I then got into circus arts, so flying trapeze, trampoline, mini trampoline, juggling, clown acting, like a lot of different circus variety. And then the biggest one of that was probably Chinese acrobatics. So yeah, kind of a, not necessarily gymnastics. Like I know a lot of ninjas have gymnastics as their primary like foundation sport. This was as similar as you can possibly get, but like a little more avant-garde, like maybe a little outside the norm. And I think that one's a cool one to like just be around for a while. And then the third one that I also have like a pretty solid, I think this was like, it also informs a lot of my athletic ability, was I did Taekwondo. So one thing that you may or may not be aware of is I actually have my 2nd degree black belt in Taekwondo. I finished that when I was 14 or 15 as well, just when I was starting to get Ninja Warrior. And I think having the background in martial arts is a really big asset to draw from to like go into something like ninja. Yeah, it's a combat sport, but also understanding how to move your body in very specific ways. Either if you're doing like I don't know if you call it like forms version of martial arts, where it's a lot more about technique and I guess showmanship, if you will. But also like the combative portions of it where you're actually having to engage with another human in either like choreographed or free form sparring. I think that actually has a lot of influence over the things that you engage with in Ninja Warrior because you're basically going to battle with these obstacles, you know? So to answer your question, like things that I would be interested in going for, I had a dream, like not like an actual dream, but like my dream when I was, let's say 12, was to go to the Olympics one day for 3 sports. Those 3 sports would have been rock climbing, which at that point in time was not even close to an Olympic sport. So this was a really big dream. Taekwondo, which is an Olympic sport. And a third one, which I just wanted to do because for the sheer hell of it. And, you know, right now there's a huge movie about it right now. Ping pong. I love ping pong. So shout out to Marty Supreme fans out there.
No way.
Taekwondo, ping pong, martial arts, circus arts, I think those all have been a huge influence in my athletic development. And I'd say probably the biggest one that really is translated to Ninja Warrior has probably been the circus arts component, especially practicing like mini trampolines. That is not a thing we do at all in rock climbing. And I think you see a lot of like traditional rock climbers struggle a lot with the like really, really long pendulum type obstacles and or trampoline based obstacles, because that is nothing like ninja or climbing, where everything is static and fixed in place and is just your pure strength against something that does not move. So there's your answer.
Nice. We're gonna
Amazing
kick
stuff.
off round 2 of Two Truths and a Vibe. I've got your next one, ninja related. If you could channel the skill, any skill, like mental fortitude, grip, speed, whatever, of any other ninja, like a superpower pretty much, like you can just like, I'm going to activate it right now. What would it be and why?
Wow. Let me think. I want to pick something or someone that has like something I aspire towards, like maybe not something that's in my wheelhouse at all. I'm trying to think of like what a good one would be and like a good pull for this. And of course, I'm going to think of a great one like 30 minutes, like, I should have said this one, obviously. Maybe if I even just think back to Sasuke 43, some of the top athletes who are just like demolishing courses. I have to really come up with a good answer here because I don't want to sell it short. I mean,
Evan and Billy, if you guys want to think about it too, feel free.
Yeah, I mean, like,
I already told you mine earlier.
This is somewhat silly and not necessarily the best answer yet, but like this is a good thing to aspire towards, is like the clutchness of Nagano Kayu's performances. Like he came out so clutch in every single one of his stages. Like let's talk about stage 2, pulling it out by 1 second on the clock.
1 second, yeah.
Unbelievable. First runner of the day. That was really cool to watch. And then stage 3, like just getting through Sidewinder by the skin of his teeth. Oh my goodness. So that was just really fun and exciting and like aspiring to watch, just being able to know that, I mean, it's his first time on this course for stage 3, for example. And there's just so much additional pressure, not for him himself, but because of kind of who he represents and his family and the legacy of Nagano. Like that's a lot at, what is he, 16 now? Like that is a lot to have on your shoulders. So his ability to kind of like literally shoulder that and go out there and put on like a really like series of clutch performances, and maybe even kind of a spoiler on stage 1, and this is a bigger spoiler that we'll talk about later, he actually had a rerun on stage 1, after an obstacle malfunction. So it was like every single stage he had to really pull it out. So this is, again, to summarize the question, like, what is the thing I would love to be able to do? To be able to pull out something as clutch as Nagano Kayu every single stage for a season, like, that is impressive.
Wow, that's absolutely incredible.
That's
wow,
crazy.
he ran 4 stages throughout those couple of days. That's astonishing.
Mm-hmm.
My lord.
And we'll get to my experience as well. Spoiler alert, same.
Oh,
right.
Hold on.
This will be very fun.
My
Okay.
goodness.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm glad we're labeling these when I put it on YouTube. I'm gonna label the time. My goodness. Okay. I think I went with, did I say I wanted Isaiah Thomas's hops? Is that what I said, Evan?
Ooh.
That's a good one.
Something like that. Yeah. Like
His
Isaiah Thomas
explosiveness
has
or
an insane
something,
amount of athleticism.
Yeah, I think that was mine.
Yeah, I've been trying to think of mine for a bit here, whilst Josh was also answering.
Billy, if you want me to go first, I can do that.
I literally just came to a conclusion right
go ahead.
before we finished the question. Sorry, Evan. But I think, especially recently, one thing I've really looked at with a lot of aspiration is just the way that Yuta Nakashima, the youngest Black Tiger, and by extension one of the youngest to make stage 3, moves so smoothly and just has perfected every single move. Because besides the fail where they had in 43, where it was just a small whiff of a hand on the swing edge, everything in his runs have been perfect. I think it's just merely been down to lack of experience on the course for him on the obstacles he failed prior to this. So just the overall perfection and just clean runs that Yuta has on courses is something I'd really like to have.
For me, this might be a little bit of a cheat. I would love to have Jay Lewis's frame. Like, I'm a pretty bigger guy. Like, I'm 5'8", somewhere in the 200-pound range. Jay Lewis, I actually met him at WNL regionals in my region, and then I met him again at Worlds, and we were trying to figure out like wingspan because there was an obstacle on stage 2 that like people were staticking, and his wingspan is about the same as mine. So like if I had the strength that I currently have now with Jay Lewis's frame, like I would absolutely love everything about that.
Yeah. For reference, Josh, Evan is as he said, in the 200-pound range or whatever. He's linking 6-footers consistently, 7-footers next very soon. Like he's moving.
That's
he's got quite a few medals already under his belt. So
incredible.
I gotta stay humble, man. I gotta stay humble.
I know, that's why I brag on your behalf.
There you go.
Billy, I think you have the next one.
All right. So for my next question, even though you retired essentially from ANW and Ninja as a whole when you reached the final stage there back in 2022, how much do you still keep up with Ninja nowadays, even though you're not physically a part of it anymore?
I keep up a fair amount, not as much as the people who are competing in NSC, for example. Like that's kind of like the current, obviously, mega league, at least in the US. But yeah, I mean, again, to be clear, the retirement that you were referencing, I actually meant to be very, very specific in even that like Instagram post that I made, or I specifically reference the regular season of American Ninja Warrior. So I feel very complete with that. I am not going back, and for all of the best reasons possible, I feel like I have concluded my run on American Ninja Warrior in my best possible conclusion there. The whole point with that also was kind of to leave the door open if other two opportunities were to arise, whether that be a special episode or especially Sasuke. Like, this is absolutely something I will and have come back for. So as far as like day-to-day activities, I'm pretty much mostly a rock climber. That's what I've been doing more recently. Actually currently living in Las Vegas, doing a lot of outdoor rock climbing here. It's awesome. And ninja stuff, I'll go to gyms like once a month or so, maybe more or less depending on the time of year. I've been actually going back to like watch the tapings of the most recent ANW season, which has been a lot of fun, seeing all the friends again, test some obstacles, just kind of keep my skills somewhat up to date. But also when I'm back in my hometown in Northern California, I'll go to Traverse every once in a while. And then prior to Sasuke, I was going to there like a lot more to train with some of the guys up there. So yeah, I'd say like the easy answer to that is like around once a month, sometimes more, sometimes less. And then I love to just kind of stay in touch with the community and like go to the tapings of ANW, even though I'm not competing anymore.
Are there any like specific people that you would want to shout out for being like your true friends that have stuck around this whole time in Ninja?
That's a good question. I mean, like everyone who competed on Sasuke was awesome. So it was really great to connect with Jesse again, because Jesse's one of the first people I got to like meet for the first time as a fan of even American Ninja Warrior. Competing in my first year on ANW, she was also in the Los Angeles region. We were the only two competitors to make it past the wedge. And she, again, maybe like the secondary question, you're like, oh, who would you love to kind of aspire towards as a skill? She just has, in my opinion, the best like mental technical, if that's like a combination thing of understanding how obstacles work than I've ever experienced. So one like micro story with that is like, you know, before LA, we were doing a bunch of practice. And then of course, before Sasuke, like I shared a very brief clip of some hallway training we were doing to get ready for Fishbone, where we set up these like cushions along the hallway and we had the like clip of Fishbone spinning at a certain rate. And we would just watch it for like minutes at a time, analyzing exactly where the rotation would go. And she just has the best eye for understanding every single possible micro detail of subtlety of movement, to the point where she could do it with her eyes closed in her sleep a million times. And the best thing I can say is like, just watch any clip of her doing Dragon Glider, like any clip. Her technique on that is freaking flawless. That's what I want to aspire to be towards. But other people that like, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I'm going to add a Jessie story on top of that. When I met her for ANW 17, because you mentioned the Fishbone, she mentions the first time she faced the Fishbone, and she like nearly ate it in that first run. She did not have a good run. And apparently Nagano, Makoto, was giving her the timing on the sideline, and he thought that he messed her up. And he felt terrible. Like after the run, he was like apologizing to her apparently, and she was just like, no, I just totally tunnel vision. Like it was just like the sloppiest, like, so it's crazy you say that. That just goes to show like it just takes one try, and then she adapted and she's just locked in from there.
Exactly. Yeah. But I think other people, and again, like hopefully this person will also appreciate, is Jay Lewis. It's been great to have him as like a friend that I got to meet basically when I was getting ready for season 14, because he was also living on the East Coast at that point in time, did a bunch of training together, made it to Vegas together, made it to the final stage together. It was really special just to like have him be kind of like the person I was training the most with around that whole experience. And to then like literally in season 14 in Vegas, go to the local climbing gym together before we even competed and like kind of show him like, hey, like this is what I've been doing for my entire athletic career. Let's go climbing together. And that was his, I think, like second or third time going to a climbing gym. But then like now he's a climber. Like he is legitimately a climber now. And it's so awesome to see that. After ANW 18, the most recent season, I took him and Luke up to this area in Red Rock, which is like the local rock climbing area in Las Vegas, and showed him a bunch of the stuff that I've been developing as an outdoor rock climber. And it was just so fun to have that like full circle moment where he has gotten into ninja. He's one of the best in the entire sport. And now he's getting into climbing, and I kind of get to show him like what my world is and then learn from him because he's just so unbelievably strong. So it's really been cool to see his progression through that. And then, yeah, probably final person that I'll shout out is my friend Charlie Andrews. He's the one who competed with me on season 9 and also in Team Ninja Warrior College Madness, which was the most hype series of episodes of all time. Throwing that down right now. The watch party we had for that was unreal. Yeah, still to me like my most favorite fan experience ever. So yeah, regardless of that, Charlie's my best friend. He's awesome. We've been climbing together since we were 12. And yeah, it's been great to have like a lifelong friendship with him through both climbing, through ninja, through life, and still be connected with him to this day.
Yeah. I have nothing but good things to say about Jay myself. He's an awesome dude. Needless to say.
Yeah, we're big Jay fans.
Yes.
Absolutely.
But moving on to my non-ninja related question. Specifically in season 14 of American Ninja Warrior, they were pushing your story of how you were a Harvard graduate. So take us through that academic journey that led you to graduating from Harvard, which is not an easy feat at all.
Sure, thanks. Yeah, so for context, I did my master's in education, and I finished at Harvard in 2022. So actually, it was the craziest period of time ever. I finished filming ANW 14. I flew back home. I graduated from Harvard, and then I got my first ever like full-time job in the same week. It was a bonkers week. I didn't know what year it was. I had no idea what was going on. Things were just happening. Yeah, it was insane. But yeah, long story short, I am a mechanical engineer. That is my undergraduate degree. I have worked in industry at various positions, largely on manufacturing, but also like product design and aerospace engineering. And after all those experiences and then trying to qualify for the Tokyo Olympics in rock climbing, I did kind of a mini reflection, and the person I was working with, who's a professional like career development coach essentially, was asking me a bunch of questions. And I was like, yeah, I think, engineering would be cool to go and do some kind of master's degree. And she's like, yeah, do you realize though that like every single thing you've done like on the side, quote unquote, has been related to teaching, right? And I was like, oh, I didn't realize that. That's a good point. And this kind of goes into my earliest academic background, which is actually homeschooled from kindergarten through 7th grade. So I think a big part of that has been me realizing the value of not just traditional education or even like, different types of education, but learning, like capital L learning in general, and that can come in any shape and form. And the really high value that has in any industry you happen to go into. So after doing that reflection, I ended up doing a master's in education. I applied to several different programs, was very fortunate to get into Harvard, and got to do a really, really incredible 1-year experience, really understanding how to think about learning, like in the biggest possible sense. So after I finished that position, or after I finished that degree, I ended up doing 2 years of full-time teaching as an engineering teacher at a local school in the Bay Area. It is a private, independent school, but I was actually teaching, believe it or not, middle school engineering. That's what I was teaching. So this goes into a story piece that I did during ANW 14 that has a connection to this as well, which is the school that I've been working with that I got, which is actually full-time employed at, we also have done kind of independently, but exactly along the same line, a quote unquote science of Ninja Warrior class every other year since 2017. So this has been a long time journey. I've done it 4 or 5 times now. Did it with Kevin Carbone in 2019. We've done an adaptive obstacles, so like Para Ninja in 2022. And just really created some of the coolest obstacles ever that, this is just a class that middle school students get to take. So that's been really cool. And I think it's at the perfect intersection of like technology, education, and ninja. Like that's just the coolest thing ever, where the students come in, we do a whole semester based on like classical mechanics. But instead of being like, all right, here is like force equals mass times acceleration, we're like, all right, let's watch some ninja videos. Let's assess like conservation of energy or Newton's laws or conservation of momentum or pendulum motion through the lens of this awesome video of Jesse Graff or Daniel Gill doing this obstacle. And then their final project, because it's a project-based school, there's no tests, there's no quizzes, there's nothing like that. It is to design, construct, and fabricate their own original ninja obstacle from scratch. So that's the class. It is the coolest thing ever. I got to teach it like remotely for a couple years. I was full-time with it for 2 years. And that kind of was the culmination of my learning as an engineer, as a ninja, and as a teacher, especially after doing the master's degree at Harvard, to like kind of combine all my skill sets into one succinct experience that I think kind of elevates the best of what we can aspire towards as learners.
That is one of the coolest classes I've ever heard in my... No, not one
Seriously.
of the coolest. The coolest class. Come on,
straight up.
Ninja Warrior in schools, people. Take notes. Come on.
It was cool.
Yeah. I would have loved a class like that when I was younger.
I love it right now.
I
It's
would
great.
have never left it. I would have been in that classroom all day.
It's pretty awesome.
I think, Billy, is it you?
Yes, it will be me. So my final question, ninja related, rounding it back to where we are right now as the Sasuke nerds. So Josh, how did you find out about the Sasuke nerds on YouTube?
It probably got recommended to me, as with most things on the internet. Like, to be honest, I have no idea. But considering, my presence for ninja and interest in it, I am sure it was one of the top recommended videos at some point in time, and I was like, sweet, this sounds great. I'm excited. I'm a Sasuke nerd myself. This does describe me as a person. Sign me up.
I feel like we've definitely done hashtag Makoto Nagano to like boost on the algorithm. So given that you were watching Nagano runs on YouTube, I wouldn't be surprised if the overlap was definitely there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Did you have like a favorite video that we produced, whether it be on the old channel or the new one?
I don't know if I could pull that off the top of my head. Yeah, I mean, I'm just a fan of your channel in general. I think the content you guys do is great. I think the community you guys have been keeping together is great. Shout out to Ninja Masters. Yeah, I think like, I don't think I could name one specific episode. I haven't listened to all of them, but just a fan of the production you guys are doing. And I think the biggest thing again is like keeping alive the excitement and passion for Sasuke, the original, and how it has also, expanded to every other part of the world, but understanding that like the original vision for that comes from this Japanese TV show, which we all have some emotional connection to, and how that has kind of transcended even its own sport and kind of like loop back around into itself. So Sasuke nerds for life.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yes.
All
Yes.
the way.
Evan.
All right. So the final ninja related question that us three of us have is like, what does this sport, this phenomenon mean to you as something as life-changing as it's been?
The easier question, of course.
Right.
Yeah, I think there's ways I've described this over the years. The reason why I love Japanese Ninja Warrior Sasuke and extension American Ninja Warrior is 3 parts. One, the obstacles themselves are just so unbelievably cool. Like, how sick is the curtain cling if you're, 14 years old and being like, whoa, this is the coolest thing ever. And seeing how many difficult and innovative and challenging and unique types of ways you can like get through some kind of physical obstacle, like that's just so cool. And even comparing that to like other sports in general, like, again, many other sports have a standardized field of play. It never changes. Think of track and field, think of swimming, think of, I don't know, even like in my competitive world, speed climbing, like that whole idea is that it's a standardized course. You can have records on it. They're made to be completely static and fixed. And that's not necessarily bad. It's just not necessarily challenging you in ways beyond your physical or technical abilities. It's mostly purely strength-based. And as a self-described Sasuke nerd, I love being challenged intellectually as well. So having the mix of physical, technical, and mental challenges, I think, is what makes Sasuke unique. So the obstacles are a huge factor in all of that. And the second piece, I think, which, again, we could talk about for hours, like, is the point that it is a unique competition format where it is the competitors against the course.
Yes.
Not
Get
each
the
other.
going. There we go.
Yep.
No other, I thought about this really hard. I can't think of a single other, and I'm going to use these words very particularly, organized competitive sport that has the same format. The only other things that come close are like other random TV shows, like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? Similar format. You don't win the $1 million till you beat the $1 million question. But I think this really comes back around to the spirit of mountain climbing, which, again, there's a reason why the final obstacle is Midoriyama, Green Mountain, is that in the spirit of mountain climbing, like thinking back to the first ever ascent of Mount Everest, that was done, after decades and decades of knowing this is the biggest mountain in the world, and people have tried and failed and died on this mountain, to the point where these two men, Tenzing Norgay and Edmund Hillary, both completed this mountain together. Like, that's such a cool story and paradigm for how we can think about overcoming challenges in our world that almost nothing else compares to it because of the fact that how difficult it is. It is not just common, but it is extremely rare, at least at that point in time, to overcome a challenge of that magnitude, that most of the time no one wins. And when someone or people together complete it, it is a shared victory. And the only other thing that really comes to mind of recent in the world of rock climbing, and this is something that if you have interest in this kind of idea, highly recommend. There is a rock climbing feat that happened actually right before the whole thing with Alex Honnold doing the free solo ascent of El Capitan. So if you've seen free solo, you know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about something that happened right before it, which was a combined ascent, also of El Capitan, but not of the ascent that Alex Honnold did, which is still difficult, but not the hardest one on the wall. Two people, one is Tommy Caldwell, the other one is Kevin Jorgensen. They did a climb called the Dawn Wall, DAWN, WALL, and there is a documentary about this called The Dawn Wall. And the whole idea behind that, it was also the most difficult big wall ascent ever. They had tried it for literally decades, failed over and over and over again, and when they finally did it, they both did it together as this unbelievable feat of like joint athleticism in this like community-based way. I think that's truly incredible. So again, wrapping it all up, it is the obstacles being super cool, this like idea of competitors versus course, not against each other. And the final thing I'll add in just as like a final thought is that, especially in the American version, but also in the Japanese one more recently, it's also about the story. Because the way they adapted it from Sasuke to American Ninja Warrior is realizing that obstacles can be a metaphor for overcoming obstacles in your own life. And that's where we've seen kind of like what is now almost like a trope, like, oh, this overcoming obstacles idea. But that's real, that's serious. And I think that's actually not something to be sniffed at, because NBC did a really good job of understanding to tell this story in a really compelling way. you have to understand where these contestants are coming from. And the idea of obstacle as metaphor, I think, is really strong way to tell that story, because it takes this kind of, silly obstacle course that we all know and love and makes it relevant for every single individual watching, because you're like, oh my gosh, I see myself in this person because they have something like me. That's the final piece, that like obstacle as metaphor, obstacle as story, bringing that all together, I think really is what solidifies me, what I love about Ninja Warrior, what really brings me to it. So obstacles, competitors versus course, story.
Beautiful answer, dude.
Beautiful.
Absolutely.
That was poetic right there, man.
It really was, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Like I thought I said something profound way back when we did Iceberg.
Yes.
We
Oh,
all
yeah.
got to share our individual stories for the Iceberg, and I said something similar to the format. Like I love the philosophy behind like the grind of no one can win. Many times, more often than not, no one wins. So it's like the push and everything like that. And we got the Harvard student version, guys, and it blew us out of the water here.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna totally switch up the vibe from that super deep, thought-provoking answer for our last vibe question. Josh, you are stranded on an island. On the island, you have one crate of the same food and a radio that only plays one song. What is the food that you would choose, and what is the song that you would choose?
Give him a minute. He's switching rooms.
Yeah.
Wow, that is a super duper tough question. So I have one creative food and one song. I think I'll have to do kind of a cheeky answer to the song, but I'm going to see what I have for my food real quick. So I just went to Trader Joe's, and usually I have some good snacks. All right, this is going to be, I'm actually just going to go grab it because I think it's a funny one.
There you go.
My
Brilliant,
favorite Trader
relevant
Joe's,
sourcing.
this is not something you can even come close to surviving on, but just something that's like my personal vice, and I freaking love them. Dark chocolate peanut butter cups.
Oh my goodness!
Wow.
So my peanut
Specifically
butter cups,
refrigerated.
For those who are watching, not because we don't do video, it was peanut butter cups. My sister's allergic to peanut butter, so we did the sun butter cups from Trader Joe's. That is such a valid pick, bro.
Thanks. As with any food, you probably get pretty sick of it pretty fast, but I have not experienced that yet, which is not great for my dietary health, but I love them.
There you go, then. Next time I go to the States, I'm gonna have to go Trader Joe's and get some dark chocolate peanut butter cups.
They're
There you
super
go.
good.
Billy, you're a big fan of chocolate too.
Oh, absolutely. I'm running on that.
Nice. The song, and I'm gonna give a very cheeky non-answer, but like this is hopefully gonna resonate. It's got to be the original G4 intro to Ninja Warrior.
Oh my gosh!
There you
Land
go.
of the Rising Sun.
No, you got to
such
do
a
it. You got to
pick.
do it with the low voice. Give us your best G4 voice.
In the land of the rising sun, 100 determined athletes have accepted the challenge to become Ninja Warrior.
Oh my god.
All right, real quick, round table G4 intro. Although
dear.
Billy might not know it. Billy might hit us
I'm
with the
gonna
challenge intro.
Right. Yeah, I got a different version over in the
Divided
UK, so I'm
into
gonna
four
have to get it.
extreme stages. Competitors across the land will come from strength and will. I probably screwed that up.
I used to have
it
it fully
was-
memorized. I just
was,
have the beginning now.
Oh, I have this like it's such a vocal stim for me at this rate that it's just it goes from the land of the rising sun, 100 determined athletes have accepted the call to become Ninja Warrior. I could get the voice. That's about as low as I could get it, but yeah,
Okay. Right.
that's
I'll
a good
give it-
answer because, like,
Yeah.
honestly, like that would hype me up. That would hype me up if I was stuck on an island. Like, if I picked an actual song, eventually, even if it's my favorite song in the world, it would drive me crazy. I would go insane from it.
Yeah.
So
Yep. And once again, as with the peanut butter cups, like I'm sure I'd get sick of it eventually. I haven't yet, and I've been listening to that for I don't know how many years it's been, 16 years now. So Still good. Still good.
That's absolutely brilliant. What a pick. That's such like, because usually I don't think anyone else, we could get any other ninja in the world. I don't think anybody else would have such a valid pick
Yes.
because like realistically, if it's a song,
It's not a
it's
song.
like like 4 minutes. There you go, quite lengthy, has like the standard structure. This is just like a sound that gets you pumped up. So you could probably, if you're stranded on an island, you just take the food with you. You get pumped up from hearing the G4 intro, and then you'll eventually find a way out because Ninja Warrior's inside you from hearing it. There you go.
Very
Yeah.
true. One little quick aside is that we actually did a huge watch party for Sasuke at my parents' place in California on like
awesome.
December 27th. It was super duper fun. I had a blast doing it. But of course, before we watched the episode, I was like, all right, guys, we're going to take 60 seconds and I'm going to show you what the real hype video is. And of course, we watched that and people just
Yeah.
like lost their minds. Like, oh, this is so hype. I remember this when I was in middle school. I was like, yep, that's why we're watching it.
There you go. Absolutely love that.
Well, that was 2 truths and a vibe. Thank you so much, Josh. Now we get to the real main course here. Spoilers if you haven't watched Sasuke 43, but if you're listening to this podcast, there's a good chance that you already have, or at least have seen clips from your friends who competed. Josh, you got a rerun?
Yes.
Perhaps.
Walk us through that. What was do you want to start from before you got to Japan, or do you want to just hit straight from stage 1?
Good question. We'll go back and loop back around to it, so that way we'll get the full picture of the Japanese experience. But yeah, I'll talk about this very briefly. Yeah, so on stage 1, actually, maybe even to set the bigger stage, is that one of the biggest takeaways from my experience competing on Sasuke is that, similarly how I was describing like why I love Ninja Warrior, there's kind of the 3 big parts of it. There's kind of 3 parts in my experience to competing on Sasuke that I was not necessarily expecting, but like really came into play. And those 3 pieces are in kind of like segment chunks. Preparation. So you got to get ready. You got to practice the obstacles. You got to get as much like, preparation as you possibly can for it. But then when it comes to the actual, courses themselves, preparation is only going to take you so far. You have to have 2 other things. And the second of those things is luck. Like sheer luck. Like pure, unadulterated, like luck. As much as you possibly can get from any religious deity you happen to subscribe to, luck. And to qualify that, the first day we were actually supposed to be filming, it was pouring rain. Like absolutely pouring rain. Which, as if you ever watched Sasuke before, they don't stop for a silly little thing like rain. That's just not a thing. So there was, unfortunately, a obstacle malfunction that happened that day, which is actually kind of related to the Nagano Kairi run. There's a couple other competitors that had some challenges with the obstacle itself during that day. But then additionally, after we were rescheduled after the obstacle malfunction to go to a different day, on my run, when I actually got to go and compete, I got really lucky to actually have a chance to do it when it was not pouring rain. And then when I ran the course, again, to kind of fast forward to the actual thing that happened, I was on Dragon Glider. And the cable on the right side got snagged somehow. I'm not exactly sure what happened. But it meant that when you do the transfer between 1 and 2 bars from Dragon Glider, usually you're going at a really quick pace, and when I actually did that obstacle in my second run, it was so fast that I didn't even have time to think or blink or even try and do any kind of mix grip anything, which is why Jesse's technique on it is just so unbelievably impressive. When I got to the end on my first run on that, it came to a complete stop with 0 speed. So I was looking up, I was like, well, that's unfortunate. I wonder what's going on here. And it was just very clear that the cable had gotten snagged somehow. It happens on every single Ninja Warrior show. Not a big deal. But I think it wasn't exactly clear to the sideline producers at that point in time what had happened. They just thought I had messed up somehow. And they're like, oh, Josh, you should totally go for it. And I was like, Nope. I think the cable got caught. Like, I don't think this is something I can fix. And at that point, you're 6 to 8 feet away from the other bar on a non-fixed bar, which it's not really feasible to make that kind of jump at all. So I ended up just dropping off. So at that point in time, I think the question was like, oh, you tried so hard, Josh. Like, how do you feel about your experience? I was like, well, I hope I get a rerun. I'm pretty sure I should get a rerun if you watch the actual tape. But this also could just be the end, and I have to make my peace with that, and that's okay.
Yeah.
So that's where we're at. Fortunately, they did rewatch the tape, and it was just very clear that it was just an optional malfunction, which happens every competition, every course, every ninja show. It's not out of the ordinary. So after that, I had like 30 minutes or so to kind of recollect myself, and I went. I was the 11th runner, but per my numbers, and then I ended up going again after like runner like 15 or 16. So got some time to rest, come back, and then try again. So that was my experience. I did stage 1 twice, and one more like spoiler that we'll get to, which is like crazy part of the whole experience, because we got moved from what would have been our first day of filming to the filming day we actually had. We filmed not just stage 1, not just stage 2, not just stage 3, but all 4 stages in the same day.
That's crazy.
Which meant by the end of filming, I made it to stage 3. I had filmed and competed on 4 stages in the same day for a ninja show, which I was absolutely wrecked from for every single possible reason, which we'll get into. But talk about like full value experience. That was unbelievable. So luck is important.
There you go.
Yeah.
Wow, I really didn't expect that story to take that turn. I mean, the dragon. I mean, for first off, I think a full stage 1 to 4 taping has not happened in years. They used to film it all in one day because typically like the flow of everything was way shorter to do. But it's really refreshing to I'll tell you what, it's weird seeing stage 2 in the daytime for once.
Yeah.
That was weird.
Your stage 2 run is probably my favorite of the runs that you had, because I think I mentioned this on my stream or something, but like you planned it so thoroughly. I was gonna say, like, were you in the chat or watching? I think you were watching or something, but yeah,
I saw the replay.
No, like you got off the log and then you immediately spun.
Yes.
And I've heard from some people like, oh, like it really helps me. And then I've heard other people say, yeah, going in the opposite direction does nothing for me. And I couldn't tell fully, but it looked like it didn't phase you as much as you thought. But you just like, you got up and you were like, oh, I forgot to spin because I did plan to do that. And then you spun.
Yep.
And then I was like, oh no, he planned everything in between.
Yes.
Like you were the only person between the salmon ladder and the spider walk to like go in a full sprint. And I was like, oh no, he's fine. We're golden here. It's not even going to be close. He's comfortable. It's like,
thanks. Yeah, no, that was
you said
big shout out to
luck.
Yes, preparation, luck, and the final thing I'll actually throw in there that will also come into play is adaptation. Because you can have all the preparation you want, you can have all the luck you want, but you still have to be able to adapt to whatever it throws at you, including reruns, including malfunctions, including, a big thing if you've ever done a ninja competition or if you've ever been on the show, being iced. That's a huge part of it. I got iced on every single stage in Sasuke 43, and that's just something you have to roll with and just be totally willing to say like, all right, this is something I'm adapting to, go for it. And so, yeah, talking about stage 2, that was, the one stage that like my preparation for it was a literal 1-to-1 with the course itself, which was for me just like pretty shocking, with the minor exception of the rolling log, which was really brutal. I shared a brief picture after the run aired of my right like arm, like the entire arm, completely bruised, like completely purple, because it was just super duper violent. Much more so than I expected. But at the same time, it was a thing that like I was watching some testers and people go before me that it was spinning really, really fast, like faster than I was doing in practice, obviously. And so some of the competitors were intentionally letting one foot go to trail behind them. This comes all the way back into like the class that I taught about the physics of Ninja Warrior. Because if you've ever taken a physics class, you know that the whole concept here is something called conservation of angular momentum. In conservation of angular momentum, it is exactly the example of a figure skater when they have their arms out really wide and they suddenly bring them in, they spin really fast because when you have a high radius of spin, your angular velocity is low and vice versa. So each time you extend something or bring it back in when you're spinning around in place, you're going to either go faster or slower depending on your radius of rotation. And so seeing a lot of people actually stick a leg out to slow down their rotation was really useful to watch because then it became the adaptation piece of like, oh, maybe I should do that because I saw one of the Japanese competitors fall right before there. And that was like a really big learning lesson that I had to immediately incorporate beyond just the training I'd done.
Yeah. Real quick, how did you train for the rolling log? Like, I feel like it's not the most traditional obstacle in the States. You know, in fact, like because of its stint on ANW, like I remember my coach, Chad Hone, shout out Chad. He was like, yeah, I hated that thing.
Yeah.
It was the worst thing ever. And like, I don't ever want to do it again. And I've always wanted to try it. So how would you recommend someone trains for that? Because it's kind of hard to build something that big.
It is, yeah. I've seen, if you like look up some of the Japanese competitors, they'll build like a small version of it in like a garage or whatever. I literally grabbed a foam roller and just like rolled around on the pads for a couple spins. It's not the best. I think actually Olivia Vivian did some good training for it where she got like a punching bag and then had it be like spun up originally and then had it untwist, which was cool. But once again, I just want to shout out Milo from Traverse for getting me all prepped for Sasuke 43. We did a ton of practice runs and actually pretty critically really got my salmon, like not necessarily technique, but like strategy planned out because I failed salmon in my practice runs like every single possible way you can. And this goes to something else that I realized about Sasuke is that the obstacle design, especially the motorized components, but even beyond that, just like think about classic obstacles, salmon ladder, warped wall, balance and agility. You know, if you've practiced Ninja Warrior, these obstacles shouldn't be quote unquote that bad, but somehow they are because their obstacle, like overall obstacle course design is so clever that they're able to incorporate either elements into the obstacle itself or prior to that obstacle that make what should be the easy part of the obstacle you're used to really difficult. AKA the salmon ladder in stage 2. If you've done salmon ladder, not too bad. But you're coming off the rolling log. So your orientation, your sense of balance and direction, what's up and down, completely backwards. You have no idea where you're going unless you do the counter spins. And that's what makes salmon in stage 2 so difficult. Similarly, warped wall in stage 1, the reason why that one's so difficult is because you have the tackle right before that. That thing was effing heavy. Oh my God. I was struggling so hard. And if you watch the run, like I had 40 plus seconds at that point. I had plenty of time. I had to push as hard as I possibly could to be able to even get it across the line. And my legs were toast after that. Like completely fried. And the warped wall, if you practice ninja, it shouldn't be too bad. It's a not even 15-foot warp wall, maybe a little less than that. Good curvature. It even's rubberized, like it's not even a wooden one. It has good texture on it. Yeah, that's important.
Okay.
But it was one of the hardest obstacles I've ever done because your legs are just destroyed after that. So the cleverness of obstacle design with motorized components, with like sneaky parts to add in right before it, even fishbone is a perfect example of that, that take away what should be the easy part of an obstacle and make the easy part hard. That's what I have a really deep appreciation for now of Sasuke's obstacle design because they thought about the actual like physical components of each of these obstacles and decided to put in elements to it that make the easy part hard.
Yeah. Evan, you're pretty partial towards the tackle warped wall combo, no?
Absolutely. I think the tackle is like the one obstacle on stage 1 that really makes the course because it makes the warped wall so much harder. And like, yeah, like most people can do a warped wall pretty easily, but when your legs are like done, yeah, it's gonna be harder.
Yep.
So my personal favorite combo, and I am upset because it's been the same for so long to where people know what to expect already with it, and they've trained for it enough. Backstream, reverse conveyor, wall lift. The wall lift and reverse conveyor have been around for forever. You crawl, you do some deadlifts, and maybe you press it if you need to, but it's so super straightforward. Now you're soaking wet, and it's the home stretch of the stage. You have to really move, and it's a sprint, but you are slipping on everything. And I love that aspect of it. I don't think that's something that many other course designers do much anymore. I think like you look at an NSC, love watching NSCs. Their courses are awesome. Their obstacles are awesome. I also think it's because they do retries, they have the ability to make things harder naturally. But a lot of the times, it really does feel like, oh, I have this really cool idea for this move with a bar, and then I have this really cool idea for like a body prop evolution, and they're all really nice individual ideas. They don't always flow as a course too much, at least when it comes to hybrids. Um, and with Sasuke's, I'm like, I understand the thought process behind, okay, maybe we can't make new obstacles every tournament. How can we affect the physicality of the athlete? How can we affect the person running instead of the course specifically? So I really do enjoy that. That's something that they've started to push the last decade or so.
Definitely agree. And one thing that, again, this is just as I actually have experience now on specifically stage 2, the things that I wouldn't have ever guessed ahead of time. One is that they actually had to modify the wall lifts a little bit after they did the testing run for us before we actually did the runs. Is that because it had just been pouring the days beforehand? They're like, all right, here's the walls. They're this many kilograms each, da da da. But because they've been sitting in the rain, they absorbed all the water. So they're like, all right, here's the rules. Any questions? Great. All right, tester, go. And the tester went and tried to pick the first wall up, which again should be the lightest, and couldn't do it. And all the contestants are just like, oh no, this is going to be the hardest stage 2 ever. And of course, they're like, all right, give us like 10 minutes. We'll come back. We'll take some weight out and it'll be easier. But that was like oh my gosh, this is a variable I was not expecting, like soggy walls. And the second,
So wait,
yep, go ahead.
do they fill it with water the way you do with like certain plates or whatever, or is it like
I think there's counterweights somewhere. I didn't actually see the actual mechanism, but somehow they made it appropriate, so that was good. The second thing, this is exactly what we were talking about when you're doing the conveyor and the wall lifts after you're soaking wet from the backstream. There is another obstacle. I will throw it out as like a separate obstacle, which is never named because it's not like part of the obstacle list, but it's kind of like a 3.5 obstacle that is actually something I legitimately worried about failing during the course, and that is the slide. Yes. Because for those of you who haven't watched, you come out of this obstacle called backstream, which is just a swimming pool that you have a current going against you on. And then after that, there's a conveyor belt you have to crawl backwards on, or crawl forwards as the conveyor belt's going backwards. But in between those, there's like a 10-foot slide you have to slide down. And apparently people have failed this obstacle in the past because you're just going too fast. So I was looking at this like, wait, what if you're just trying to like book it and you end up sliding off the end, which is a real thing that people have done. I asked some questions about, can you grab the sides to slow you down? And the answer, of course, is no. You have to like do it as intended. I'm like, oh my God, like this would be the worst obstacle to fail. Like you've done the hard stuff. In theory, you should have enough time if you practice well enough. And you fail a slide? Like, it's not even a real obstacle. How would you classify that? So I was very afraid of the slide. And fortunately, as long as you're like, anticipating it, it's not too bad. And there's like kind of like a gap in the pad that you can kind of squish your feet into. But obstacle, 5.5 or whatever is a slide. It is a real obstacle. It is not listed. It's still hard.
That's amazing. Yeah, in between obstacles is always what I try to emphasize when I coach kids. So the in between being just a straight up ramp that could launch you off the course is probably my personal worst nightmare for like a transition
Oh
point.
yeah.
But I do remember the first time I saw someone fail that section, immediately I was like, well, I haven't been studying the film for that. So now I have to like go back. And I was like, okay, I feel better on it. Maybe just like you really have to dig with your heels by the looks of it. Otherwise,
That's
like
the key.
you're just gonna hit the pad, the flat pad at the bottom and keep going. But yeah.
Yeah, so like honestly, like the efficiency between obstacles, like Kane was saying, is something that's like really important. Something that I am trying to work on when I do course runs. So like, and we were seeing it, like we said, like with you between the salmon ladders and the spider walk, you just bolted.
Yep. Yeah, and that was part of the practice. Just like understanding that the stage 2 time limit, even more so than stage 1, is super duper duper tight. So again, it really came down to the practice that I did with Milo of understanding like, okay, you have this many seconds for obstacle 1, this many seconds for obstacle 2. Transitions between them is really, really critical to like not just nail, but like get through as fast as you can, especially after salmon. Like it's harder to fail from a singular move. Like spider walk, you can fail pretty easily. But the real dangers of that particular stage on 43 were the spinning log, which is really hard, like a lot harder than I anticipated. And then just staying like focused on salmon ladder because it's also easy to mess up, as we saw with Benny. So after salmon, the only real obstacle you have is time, and you want to get there as fast as you possibly can. Which makes, once again, an obstacle like backstreams just so clever because you're running out of time, you're trying to sprint, you're short on breath, and now you have to go underwater. Like that's just so diabolical in the best way possible. Like it's clever design because of where it is in relation to the entire course. And of course, the whole part of that after that is now you're soaking wet, you're still out of breath, and you have to get to the last 2 and plus a half obstacle in less than 30 seconds. So I love the design of it. I love the fact that like it's very short, very different obviously than the newer iterations of American Ninja Warrior Stage 2. But I think this really harkens back to the concepts of when ANW Season 4 Sasuke 27, when it was like the metal spin and you still have those like trick, even like the rolling log that you had to balance. What's that one called? Name for that one? The balancing log that you're rolling across.
Balance tank.
Balance
Balance
tank.
tank.
Balance tank. There we
Classic.
go. Yeah.
Really difficult. That one took out so many people, especially in ANW 4. So I love the fact that stage 2 is like a race against the clock, like in a really pure sense, much more than probably any other stage besides maybe stage 4. But that's what I love about stage 2 is it's just like a pure timing thing. And that's what I think is cool about that particular stage.
Yeah. So we've done stage 1, we've done stage 2. Now we get to what we call Josh's playground, stage 3. Was this your favorite stage to attempt, or do you have a separate pick for that?
Good question. I mean, yeah, Sasuke stage 3, legendary. This is what literally made me fall in love with not just Ninja Warrior, Sasuke, the whole sport in general, but also have that like emotional connection to someone like Nagano Makoto. Like this is someone who I had watched when I was 15 doing these incredibly cool obstacle courses with the Japanese announcer saying things in a language I have no idea what's going on, but it just captured my soul in a way that you can't describe. Like this is why all 4 of us are here on this podcast right now, is that it's just such a hype feeling, especially around stage 3, because it's kind of the opposite of stage 2. There's no time limit total for the whole course. And the whole goal of stage 3 is to see what are the most physically demanding obstacles we can string in a row that a human body can barely endure. And that is such a cool conceptual question to ask. That, of course, in rock climbing, we have things that are similar to it. Mountaineering, Mount Everest is the first thing that like a lot of people are trying to get towards for a long period of time. Dawn Wall is another example that I highly recommend checking out. But even in your own trajectory as a climber, you always think like, what is the coolest, most BA like awesome challenge that I can aspire towards? And whatever level of climber you're at, like that's going to be different. But you'll know when you find it, because it's such a challenging thing to attempt. Kind of like in a spiritual sense, like you have to really invest every ounce of your being into it. And that's what I love about stage 3. It's just a pure like person against course paradigm. That when I saw it on Sasuke when I was 15, I loved it. When I got to actually compete on it for the first time this year, I couldn't even believe it. I think it was tough to like wrap my mind around it at the time, especially because it was 10 o'clock at night or something, and I'd already done 3 stages before that, so I was already super tired. But it was just such a fun experience overall that like I just really can't complain. I think in total, stage 3, I think I was most looking forward to it, for sure. I think the obstacles on it were like really tricky, like trickier than I would have expected. Absolutely. And I think with all of them, like I don't think it actually ended up being necessarily my favorite, but not in a bad way. I just also loved stages 1 and 2 like so much that they all just kind of like blended together into one like overwhelmingly awesome positive experience. So even though stage 3 was one I was looking forward to the most, I think it ended up being kind of even with the other 2 courses as far as like overall positive experience, just because they were all super fun. So kind of walking through the course itself. So there's 8 or 9 obstacles depending on how you count them. First obstacle, flying bar, I was definitely most worried for, because in practice I'd failed it a bunch just like randomly. So I was like, all right, I got to nail this like first couple swings.
I can relate to that.
Yep. And it's the kind of thing also where like the obstacle design itself, like the first cradle jump on flying bar, your feet are on the ground. So even me, I'm 168 centimeters, 5'6", like if I don't pick up my feet, you're going to hit your feet on the platform behind you, which is when they're going through rules. And they actually featured this on the broadcast, which I thought was hilarious. They were literally telling Tim, champion, like, hey, Tim, by the way, like we've designed this for the average Japanese competitor. Your feet will probably hit the platform. Tim's like, well, I'm used to it. It's fine, whatever, which is just so funny. They kept that in the whole broadcast because that was during rules. Like, that was hilarious. And that's true for every obstacle. Like every obstacle is so tricky, so precise. You have to have like unbelievable amount of like focus on. And the one obstacle I think I'll highlight here before we get to Cliff Dimension, of course, which we'll talk about, is Swing Edge. Because Swing Edge was the ultimate example of the subtle trickiness of what I had now appreciate about Sasuke as a whole. Because what they've done with Swing Edge is they placed it, early on-ish in the course. And it's in combination with Sidewinder, so you're like a little bit pumped after doing the jumps and everything. But again, it's one of those obstacles that you're like, oh, well, it's similar to reverse falling shelves grab, whatever. It's way trickier, like way, way, way trickier. I mean, we all saw Daniel Gill almost come off on it, and he's one of the best like pure ninja athletes ever. And he was able to do it because he's so good at that kind of stuff. But it's tricky for a bunch of reasons. So reason one is, once again, similar to the platform on Flying Bar, you start the obstacle in one of the weirdest swinging positions ever. You have these 2 shelves you're grabbing, not a big deal, but the platform you're on has a gap where you'd normally be standing up straight. So you have to kind of keep your legs together for that bottoms part of the swing. But right behind you, aka a couple feet, is the last pole of the Sidewinder. So if you keep your feet together, you're going to hit your legs on the Sidewinder, which is what happened to Nakashima Yuta and to RJ, is they forgot to put their legs apart on the backswing, and that's what messes up your first reverse grab. You have to know this. So it's one of the weirdest swings ever because you have to have your legs together for the front and mid part of the swing, and then split on the back, and then reverse that again and again. Super weird. Once you actually grab the second one, this is where it gets even trickier, because the reverse grab you're doing is not to the falling shelves type hold that we've seen on American Ninja Warrior, where it's preloaded, you can actually grab it kind of right where it is, even though you have to have that like linked lache tech to get into it. It is facing straight down, and the handles that you're actually grabbing are out and up if you actually look at the profile of the hold from the bottom of the pure plexiglass sheet. So you have to really reach underneath it to actually get it where it is. But on top of that, you also have to understand that if you look very carefully, and they pointed this out to us during rules, at the second swing edge block, there is something unbelievably subtle that almost no one pays attention to, in that there is a preventative spring attached to the second swing edge to make it so that when you get to the apex of your front swing, you are automatically slowing down more so than you anticipate. It's evil
Why?
in the best way possible.
That's
So
so,
now you have to
random.
really-
I never
you have
knew
to-
there was a spring there.
Yeah,
Mhm.
no, that's news to us.
Oh,
so
yeah.
you really have to emphasize, like, going into the third one, then you really have to muscle it more than rely
Yes.
on your swing then.
But again, not too much, because that's what happened to like Miyaoka. I think he just went a little.
Yeah.
Well, actually, he was just too close. But yeah, it's really easy to both undershoot it and overshoot it, and that's why swing edge move 2 is so difficult, regardless of move 1. It's one of the most purely technically challenging obstacles I've done on a ninja show, and it's swing edge. Right? It doesn't look that bad. Like, why is everyone failing this obstacle? There are unbelievable amount of reasons why all those pieces go into it, especially the ones you don't expect, which is this like hidden spring, which like, it's just weird. It's not something you're used to. And it's something they threw in there to literally mess with you, to make an obstacle that should be quote unquote easy hard. And that's what I think is the underlying like genius, subtle, clever design of Sasuke obstacles and course design in general.
That's ridiculous. You would never assume, if you're just watching it, that there'd be a spring on the first reverse catch. That's insane.
Yeah, go
So
look it
you
up.
literally, it's almost like your swing is like half as irrelevant now, because you literally just have to go. It's kind of like you have to take your hands and just move them as fast as possible, whilst also being precise, because those final 2 ledges are smaller than they were with the lip on it in 42 and before that. So that's wow.
Yeah, like when we were first watching Sasuke 43, we thought that the plexiglass that was on the third swing edge was like the huge difference. But now that we know that there's a spring, wow. Like,
Two huge differences.
It's
Yeah.
all part of it. It was hard.
Wow. No, that's so crazy.
Insane.
Like
Yeah.
the intricacies that, and I would assume that like no one else really has that to train on, except for maybe Uchimiya, maybe, because there's, you know, collaboration with TBS on that part. But I will now retract so many times where I'm like, yeah, they did swing edge. I saw them on their Instagram story. They did swing edge. My confidence in reverse catches just plummeted when you said that. I'm not gonna lie, and I grinded that a lot.
It's hard, yeah, because
That's wild.
yeah, it's the three-parter. It's the spring in the middle one. It is the extra out and in and up that you have to get for the plexiglass one. And the first one, you have to know whether your legs are apart or together for each part of that swing to get to the second one in the first place, which we saw multiple people fail this season and last season. So very tricky obstacle.
Wow. That's a lot to take in just there. That's
I
madness.
now have a
crazy.
much higher appreciation for that obstacle.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I was like, the first time it came around, I was like, well, I'm glad there's something to shake things up. It's a little different. The Japanese weren't doing reverse catches beforehand, so it's nice to have that introduced. And then after a while, I was like, all right, I mean, it's there. Some people, they get careless on it. That was how I wrote it off, you know? It is now I know very much not the case.
Yeah.
All right, now we
And
get to the big one. Dun dun dun. The cliff dimension. So how frequently were you guys checking for the timing on it from the sidelines?
Good question. So again, for those of you who have not seen it, Cliff Dimension is a cliffhanger, except the fact that the first one is static and the next two are not. They are moving up and down and in and out, respectively. So that. So again, for context of the entire, like my entire preparation for Sasuke, like I had practiced dimension, or not dimension, I practiced cliff transition moves a little bit. Like again, there's very few places that actually practice that. Even the gyms I was going to didn't have 180 cliff transfers, so I was like trying to practice it in the climbing gym with nothing behind me, and it was not great. But yeah, the entirety of even that singular day, like I would say 90%, if not more, of my energy and focus and intentionality was focused all into stage one, because we all knew it was going to be brutal because of the bloodbath that happened before it. And I'd say of that 90%, like 80% of that was focused on like obstacle one, and then maybe a little less than that in fishbone. So every single course, obstacle, anything after that, I was like, cool, I made it past obstacle one. I'm happy. Sweet. So fast forward from, 5 o'clock that morning, which is when we had to wake up. 6 o'clock is when we got in the bus. 8 o'clock is when we started filming stage one. Noon is when we started filming stage two. 8 to 10 o'clock is when we did stage three. All the transitions, everything in between. I've made it past the flying bar. Success. Sidewinder, swing edge, super tricky. I get to Cliff Dimension. I'm like, all right, cool. I know this is tricky. I'm also really happy to even make it this far. It's also a cliffhanger. Like, I shouldn't fall in cliffhanger. Why would I ever fall in a cliffhanger? Silly. Gosh. And of course, once again, I am humbled and like reminded consistently that Sasuke takes an obstacle that should be quote unquote easy. I hate to use that word, but like if you practice cliffhanger, if you practice warp wall, if you practice salmon ladder, these obstacles are not the most difficult ever. All the new stuff in NSC, that's just freaking hard. Like, I don't know if I could do that first try. It's difficult things. But a cliffhanger, if you practice it enough, you should be able to at least make it through, even if you're somewhat fatigued or tired or, it's 10 o'clock at night. Until you realize the trickiness of it, which is the fact that each of these ledges are going up and down, in and out, designed specifically to throw you off. Like, that is the whole purpose of the motorized component of Cliffhanger Dimension. And even going to the name itself, like, I assume that a lot of the time the name is just kind of a, English amalgamation or a silly play on words or something. I was like, oh, Cliffhanger Dimension? Like, what is Dimension about? Like, I guess it's doing different things. And of course, I do start getting on it. I'm timing it. It's going up and down in intervals of about 8.5, 9 seconds. I do the first transfer, and I get to that second ledge, the one that is going up and down before we go to the one that's going in and out. And I realize fully why it's called Cliffhanger Dimension. Is because when I got to that exact spot, like on ledge 2 that's going up and down, I could not tell what dimension I was in anymore. I had no idea where I was in space. Where was up, where was down, left, right, forward, what direction time was going, all of the fun things. And that's the point. Like, the point of that obstacle is to confuse you on something that you should be able to do. Again, it's a hard obstacle. Cliffhanger is always going to be hard. But especially if you have like a climbing background or ninja background that has a lot of cliffhanger in it, like, it is not the most difficult obstacle. The difficult part about it is understanding what the tricks to it are, just like with Swing Edge, and understanding how to interpret those tricks in a way to take all of the external noise. Think about something like Fishbone. It looks crazy, but once you understand the timing of it, not too bad. And then apply it in that moment to solve Cliffhanger Dimension. So my mistake on Cliffhanger Dimension was only thinking about the first transfer, because my underlying assumption is like, okay, if you get the first transfer, it'll line you up and then you go for the second transfer. But no, there's a good amount of time that you're on that second ledge before the cliffs line up where the one you're on is high and the one you're going to is close before they start going low and far again. And at that point in time, I had no idea what I was doing. So I'm trying to line it up. I get there early. I start doing a really big swing and I'm like, wait, this is way too soon. So then I have to kill that swing. I'm realizing it's going up and down behind me. I have no idea, again, which way is up, down, left, right, or sideways, which way time's going, all of things. And then I try and figure out exactly the timing. I think I actually get the timing lined up, but then the one critical thing that you need to do if you're doing a 180 cliff transfer that I talk about in my post-run interview is you bring your hands together, you match to then give you the height and like pull strength and turn ability necessary to make the 180 leap. So I realize I have the timing perfect. I realize my hands are not matched, and I'm like, uh-oh. I then maybe could have done it anyways because people still do that. I had never practiced that before. I'm like, you know what? I think I can still do it. I need to actually have my hands come together. So I did one extra swing, which we all know. Timing is everything on these. That is not how you do this obstacle. So by the time I brought my hands together, allowed for one extra swing to go, the cliffhanger was both much further away and I was much lower in comparison to it, and I had zero shot of making it. So once again, it comes down to understanding that like this obstacle, it shouldn't be too bad until you understand the context of the sneakiness, the cleverness, and the like subtlety of why the transfers are hard based on the timing of it all. And the trick, of course, if you watch someone like Morimoto Yusuke do it, he doesn't even look at the one behind him at all. Mm-mm. He understands, as I do now, that the whole point of that second one is to throw you off. It's to distract you. It's to make you think that you're doing it right or wrong. And the only thing you should be thinking about on Cliffhanger Dimension is the timing of it all and how many seconds has elapsed between when you hit the bottom of that period of motion and the top, factoring in how much time it's going to take for your swing, and then just going when you know the timing to be correct, which is exactly what he did.
So when you touch on the timing of that and everything, would you say that it would be like the optimal time to release when the second ledge is at the top, or do you think it should be at a different point?
It's pretty much at the top.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, because I can't stress how many times I've yelled at my screen over this obstacle. It's like when they first had a moving ledge on the cliffhanger, I was really intrigued by it. And then they added a second one, and I was like, I don't know how I feel about this. The cliffhanger is my favorite obstacle ever, period. So, like, why are we messing with perfection here, you know? And every time I look at the timing and the second ledge hits the top, I just look at it and I'm like, that's like an insane drop. And people are training for that. They have in their backyard setups and everything just this giant drop from one ledge to another to simulate that. But I guess my question is there a better time for that release to where you don't have to catch it at your chest and absorb it?
So once again, I can't answer that fully because I've never actually successfully done that move. So people who have actually trained it, maybe in backyard courses, can definitely speak more than I can. My guess, having failed it the way I did, is that, you know, I was pretty close to the top, but not perfectly at the top. The bigger part, clearly, in addition to the height that you have to go down, is the distance you have to go across. So it's the combination of factors in trying to figure out what's the least bad time to go. It's never a good time, but there's the least bad. My guess is it's going to be when you're at the greatest height differential, because that's also when you're the closest. And any time before or after that, like, I guess maybe you could argue maybe a tiny before it gets to the top, maybe, because then the other cliffhanger is actively coming closer to you. But, I mean, in theory, it would have been similar-ish to where I went. Even though it's moving further away, it's still some distance.
Right.
So I would guess, having, again, never done it successfully myself, having tried it exactly one time, that it's still probably the best to go at, even when it's a big height differential, because it's just so much closer together that even though you have to absorb a lot, you're not going as far. And the horizontal distance, at least in my N value of 1 experience, matters a lot more than the height differential.
That's fair. That's fair. I mean, hey, you've only done it once, but it's one more than anyone else on this podcast combined. So. Oh.
Do you reckon that you say that final swing that you did after the one where you forgot to part your hands together, do you reckon you would have had that if you went on your third swing and then turned around successfully?
Oh, yeah. So if I had done it on the timing that it looked like I was about to do it and successfully brought my hands together, I think I would have nailed the timing pretty well. And I felt pretty fresh at that point. Well, I was fatigued, obviously, but I was in my ability as a climber. I think I was well within my threshold of like endurance to catch that second one. The first one felt pretty good. So it's literally a timing thing. Like that's why cliffhanger dimension is so unbelievably difficult. Not just because it's a physically challenging obstacle in the later half of stage 3, but also because of the timing.
Absolutely. The timing of that obstacle is probably never going to be solved fully. Like even then you say Yusuke Morimoto is able to do it without looking back. And even though this man trains all year round, especially on cliffs, and has never failed it, it's still never perfect. Like he was in the past 2 competitions, he's been very close to peeling off because of the jolt his shoulders get whenever he lands on that cliff. So it's astonishing for anyone who either clears that obstacle or gets close to completing that obstacle like you did. However, that isn't the final obstacle on stage 3. You got 2 more to go after that. The first of which being the hardest obstacle probably of all time. Josh, how would you feel if you cleared the cliffhanger dimension? You're all well and good. You get to the bar. The vertical limit burst is right there.
Crazy. Yeah, I mean, VL burst, it's the stuff of dreams, right? It is the singular most difficult obstacle from a pure physical standpoint, possibly on any show. Like I'm sure there's been 100 stuff in like local competitions or NSC, but like this is the peak of where we're at in history of Sasuke, American Ninja War, any ninja show of pure difficulty of an obstacle. And as any competitor, you want to try and, test yourself against the hardest thing on the planet. Like that's just such a cool idea, right? I have no idea if I would have been able to clear it. Once again, you have to assume there's like cleverness, trickery to it that like even if you've watched it a million times, if you haven't been on it, you just don't know about. Knowing that is such a legendary obstacle, and what I would have guessed, similar to Cliff, that it fits my strengths, especially as a climber, especially as like the kind of climber I am. Generally, climbers, you can kind of categorize it by like either climbing style or like hold type that types of climbers like. My favorite climbing hold type are pinches. I love pinches. And some climbers like crimps, some climbers like slopers or pockets. There's just different styles that you kind of go for. I love pinches. And the fact that the vertical limit is essentially a pinch, it's a crimp rail, obviously, but you have to engage your thumbs, which I love doing. I think, again, in theory, plays to my strengths as an athlete. But once again, like you have to assume that with everything else Sasuke, there's trickiness and cleverness and subtlety to it that you just have no clue about. So knowing that, I tried to build a very, very rough replica of it in my garage, which I shared to my Instagram story like after we filmed or aired stage 3. It was pretty bad, but like, it's a thing. I built it in, I think, a day and a half right before I flew out for Japan. I used like this PVC pipe and like some 2x4s and just like guesstimated everything on the angles and lengths and everything. It did not work well. It worked, but the hard part, of course, of vertical limit burst is that final move, which is also replicated in the middle, where you're on one ledge, you reach up at like a 70, 80 degree angle. It's like really good angle. And then you have to grab another piece and then have it rotate with both hands, and your back hand very much looks like it has a tendency to pop off. So my replica of it, the angle was not fixed. It kind of like squished together and it made it pretty easy. So not a perfect replica. But there are people who have built them now in the States that like I would love to go practice and train on. So I assume that it is very hard physically, and it also has a lot of technique. I think the best thing you can do is look at Miyoka's run in 42 and realize that he's just practiced this a million times. He has tape on his like Spider-Man fingers, I would say.
Yeah.
Like that's where he's got it to like really understand that the rotation of the fingers as you. And I'm just like, this man just knows it. He just knows it inside and out. So that's what I was trying to go for, and I think that's where that obstacle really shines, is that like it's all in the subtleties.
Yeah, like honestly, like when I was watching the vertical limit burst for the very first time in Sasuke 41, I was like, what is this? This might be the hardest obstacle I've ever seen in a ninja show. And going back to Sasuke 43, watching Morimoto not only clear it, but clear it super cleanly in a very clutch fashion was such an awesome moment for all of us as Yusuke fans. I can't imagine how you were feeling being in the audience, seeing that live.
It was cool.
So I can actually give you a small education on the burst, because this is one that apparently I've tried that you haven't.
Oh,
so,
exciting. Yeah, tell
scale.
me.
This is so shout out Joe Meisner. I think I shouted him out on the last episode. We're just gonna keep shouting him out and his backyard setup
Nice.
until he comes on the pod. But essentially, you know, the testers of Sasuke, they do get to ask questions about, you know, the build and about certain, you know, schematics of the obstacles, more or less, and then they replicate it. And because of that, a lot of the competitors get to replicate it. And then when people go to Japan, or if people just like, I DM'd one of the testers, I was just like, hey, I want to build a burst someday. Like, how would I do that? He sent me, you know, everything that you need to know. And it's like, it's nuts. So we all know centimeter thick ledges. The rotations are 60 degrees. It is a heavy, heavy piece of equipment. Like trying Joe's, which is, I know, like accurate. It's, you know, a lot of people are using wood, and obviously the vertical limit itself is wood, but it is held together by iron plates, and they are fused in to the wood.
Brutal.
So as soon as you put your hand on, the reason that that backhand comes off, and I can speak from experience here because there are multiple clips of me falling on my butt immediately. As soon as the rotation starts, there is like this very specific split-second timing to match your second hand over. It's the quickest bump in the world on like a super tiny pinch. And I love it and I hate it at the same time, because it's, in terms of grip, I know on a centimeter ledge, I'm okay. I can do fine, and I've been training it, you know, because I love grip stuff. Stage 3's endurance courses, burnouts, they're my favorite. So I love getting to try it. But the timing of that and the force at which it's coming towards you, it genuinely does feel like it's going to hit you in the face on rotation. And it's a big, tall task. And the fact that it was beaten, honestly, as quickly as it was, is one of the most impressive things for ninja shows, period.
Ninjas are strong.
Ninjas are strong.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And adaptable. That's important.
Adaptability. There you go. One of the big three mentally.
Oh yes.
So we've talked all these runs. We've talked about how late you've had to stay up, which is nuts. I would hate to do all 4 stages. Evan and I had to do Worlds, and it was 3 stages, and that was all in one day. And W&L courses are so much shorter and so much more like, we're getting you in, we're getting you out.
Yep.
Whereas like, you're not sitting on the lot the whole time, and you're not like, I can't imagine that, dude. I want to put me on and, you know, give me a call.
Yeah. One thing I'll throw out, actually, just as far as filling in some of the like environmental gaps of it all, is that, again, I've been a fan of Sasuke for a long time. I've just watched it and been like, oh, one day, and finally getting to be part of that whole experience is like the ultimate fan dream come true. And one of the pieces to that, again, like I just didn't appreciate ahead of time, that like now I'm like, oh my gosh, this is incredible, is that I would describe Sasuke experience as the biggest backyard ninja competition ever in every possible way. The fact that it's filmed entirely outdoors, like some ninja shows, for example, Ninja Warrior Germany are filmed indoors now. It's filmed rain or shine. You just go. That's part of the whole deal. It is kind of almost literally in a backyard. Like it's in this like wildly like suburban area. There's actual neighbors. Apparently after like a certain time of night, you're supposed to like be quiet. And this is while someone's literally climbing stage 4 and you're like, oh wait, oh yeah. It's crazy. And then the biggest part of all that like you have to just adapt to when you get there is that it's just a giant field. And if it's been raining, there's mud everywhere. Like everywhere. So that's why everyone's running around with like giant rain boots on, is that you're stepping in stuff that like you could just be fine and step on like an actual wooden plank, but you could also step off the wooden plank by an inch or two and have your foot literally sink down like 3 or 4 inches into just pure mud, and you have no idea what's going to happen. So the whole experience of it all, you're running around the whole thing. There's even, crowd during stage 1 during the daytime. And after that, stage 2, 3, 4, there's no crowd. It's just you and the competitors and your families, and everyone's like right there on the sidelines or next to you. There's the producers. It's just all part of the whole ambiance and the experience of it just being like this giant backyard course in the best possible way. And the additional levels of it, I think that just elevate it beyond like a backyard competition, is that it feels much more real than even something like ANW, where a lot of the extra, layers of it are done in post-production. For example, the commentary, the noise effects, even some of the extra like visual effects, like those are all there. Like there's fire during the daytime. Why not? The actual commentary is happening over the loudspeakers as you're doing the run. The countdown beeps are real. And that is totally different than my experience competing in American Ninja Warrior, because the level of like actual genuine authenticity of the whole thing, down to like the actual mud on the course, like nothing's hidden. It's all there. And everything is just kind of like feels very much like a genuine experience in a way that it is both the perfect backyard competition and elevated to a place much further beyond that, because it's Sasuke, because it has all this history, and you recognize that like this ground, as arbitrary as it is, kind of like a sacred place. It's Midoriyama. It has all this like legendary competitors that have tested themselves against it. It has Midoriyama right there, and I think it's just a really incredible place in and of itself. Like the location itself is kind of an additional character in the whole story of Sasuke, because of how many different layers it has to it.
Well said. Well,
Absolutely.
now, Josh, we do have a whole other calendar year until the next Sasuke tournament, or I guess like 10 months for filming and whatnot. I don't know. You don't have to say, obviously, if you've been invited or if they've already talked to you about it or anything like that. But in terms of training, what's going to change in the event that you do get an invitation back, given your result?
Yeah, I again would love to go back. That is a huge part of what I aspire towards as an athlete, as a climber, as a Ninja Warrior contestant, as someone who's a big fan of Sasuke. I hope I get a chance to go back. And as far as the training goes, the thing you have to recognize for any athlete, and I'm sure you guys who've watched Ninja, done Ninja yourselves, is that like everything goes in cycles. So the training I did building up to Sasuke 43 was like very intense, and that's important. And I think being able to peak at the right time is crucial, because that's all the preparation phase of it all. But also like let yourself time to just not have anything as intense in other parts of the year. And, right now I'm mostly outdoor rock climbing right now, which is perfect because I'm still doing cool, challenging physical activities that keep my physical strength up. But I'm not also overtraining grip endurance or balance or things that are dangerous or I don't know, just like too much ninja. Because I think there's a very easy trap you can fall into. This goes for any sport, especially ninja, is like getting overly worked up throughout the entire calendar year. Excuse me. And I think that's where you can not only have a higher risk of injury, but higher risk of burnout. And I think the best competitors, like the competitors who've been competing longest, this is a testament not only to people like Daniel Gill, who's been competing on Sasuke for a long time, people like Jesse, who's been competing on Sasuke and American Ninja Warrior for a super long time, but people like the All-Stars, who are in their 60s and still competing on Sasuke. Like, that is so cool to me. Like, unbelievably sick that someone like Shingo Yamamoto has competed, I believe, on every season. Is that correct?
Every
Every
time,
single
yeah.
Everyone.
Only person to do it.
Unbelievable. And he's still out there. Nagano's still out there. A lot of the All-Stars. Yamada came back this year. That was just so cool. And to recognize that, like, once again, your individual performance, your individual effort, any singular day of competition, even the fact that 43 was filmed all in one day, that's just one data point, and it's not wholly representative of who any of these athletes are as athletes. I mean, look at Ilian, like, he's one of the most talented Ninja Warrior obstacles ever, and obstacle one was freaking brutal, and like it was really difficult to get past that one. And the recognition that like anyone's individual performance is not, in my opinion, based off of one result. It's based off of a accumulation of results. So having the ability to see the waves of it all, not try and burn yourself out too fast, have times when, sure, you ramp up and you try and train really, really hard and prepare yourself, but also recognize you need time off and recovery and mental health and emotional separation from the thing that drives you is really important. So I look at someone like Nagano, again, my personal hero in Sasuke, as a true testament of that, because he has kept this fire alive for so long, nurtured it in so many of us from all over the world, and now his kids, that like I think it'd be very easy to become overly invested, burn yourself out, and step away, which you've seen from countless ninjas, which, people competed on season 1 of ANW, season 1 of Sasuke, who are not competing anymore. So I think the cool part about this whole thing is seeing the longevity video, seeing people come back for season after season, seeing people like Yamamoto, seeing like Nagano, seeing Yamada, and seeing people like Jesse and Daniel come back. Like, that's the cool part that I am inspired by personally, and that's where I aspire towards as well.
Well, Josh, thank you so much for joining us today. This has been one of the most educational, insightful, inspirational conversations I've had with any ninja athlete ever, honestly. And it's just, I really appreciate that you took time out of your day for this. I'm sure Billy and Evan can agree as well.
Yes,
For
absolutely.
all of you
Absolutely.
who are listening, thank you guys so much for listening. Be sure to tune in next week. We will have Makoto Nagano as our guest, so you're not going to want to miss that. Take care, everyone, and be sure to keep following the Sasuke Nerds podcast.